Awesome, guys. My name is Sharad. I'm the owner and founder of REsimpli. We do these calls every week, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and all of these calls are recorded and we put them on our YouTube page. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to go back, you can always go back to our YouTube page. And if you do watch it, I would request you to, if you don't mind, liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. So this way we can keep producing more video content. All right, guys. So the call today is about how to use REsimpli to manage your purchase and sales agreement and your assignment agreement. So any agreements, contracts for that matter, within REsimpli. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into, and it's included in everybody's plan. It's a pay-per-use feature e-sign. So it's not, that you have to be in a certain plan. It's if you use it, you pay for it. If not, then you don't pay for it at all. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into this general section and go into e-sign. And then in there, the first thing you want to do is upload your e-sign template. So I have a couple of templates that I'm going to upload, but you can upload any PDF template that you have. So first, I'm going to upload a purchase agreement, and I'll just walk through some of the steps on how to get it uploaded. Make sure you automate most of the things that you need to do. So when you upload, this is what your PDF template is going to look like. This is an actual purchase agreement that we use in our business. If anybody wants a copy of this, just email us at support@REsimpli, and then I can get this copy over to you guys. So the first thing you want to make sure is that the contract, when you upload it in PDF, everything came through okay. So just make sure everything looks good. All the pages got uploaded, and then the fee that you're paying for the contract is like the 95 cents or whatever the cost is for the entire contract. So even if you have 10, 12, 15 pages of contract, it's just one fee for the entire contract, not per page or per signature that you need. All right. So the first thing you want to do is, once you've uploaded, is assign the roles. So let's say this is where the buyer will need to sign, and this is where the seller will need to sign. So I'm going to fill this out as like I'm buying a property, and then I'll do an assignment contract where, if I'm selling the property. So I want to go into this. What we do in our purchase agreement is it comes first to me. So I fill out everything, or most of the information will be filled out before I get it. I just sign it, and then it goes over to our seller for the final signature. So I'm not going to fill out every single field, but I'll fill out some of the fields just so that you get an idea of how to use and some of the more advanced fields that we use in our business. So let's say in the date field, I can drop date field, and then make sure, based on the color, like who's responsible for it. So this is PN1, which is like party number 1 is the buyer. So if I want something to be signed by PN2, party number 2 seller, you'll notice that the color changed in green. So because I want to have the information that I need to fill out, I'm going to go through that first. Buyer name would be buyer name. I can do the text field. Text field is a field that it's just, think of it as a single line text. So if you need something just for a single line, and then the text box would be if you need something that has like a paragraph where you need. So, and then the seller name, this is an update we just made recently. What you can do is, in these personalized fields, you can just drag and drop this. It's going to autofill the seller information, the name automatically. So you don't have to type it, and it'll apply for all the contracts. So you can just drop it one time, and every time you go into the contract, which I'll get into, this information will be autofilled. And if you have 2 people, then you can do this, and then it'll drop off both the names. So I'm just going to do 1 for now. And then the purchase price would be, you also have a field of offer price. So you can just drag and drop the offer price. So once you move a property to offer made, and then if you're sending a contract from offer made, it's going to autofill the offer price information. And then this right here is, sorry, I forgot about the property address. So we also have a field for property address. So again, you can drag and drop right here. It's going to autofill the property address. So you can kind of see what it looks like. So these are the fields that autofill into the contract. Primary lead name, so which is your primary lead information. Their email address, so secondary lead, so if you have husband and wife, their email address, so offer price, property address, and dispo buyer name. So if you are now assigning the contract, or if you are selling it to someone, you can also have their information filled out. So I'll go that into a second contract if I'm assigning the property to someone. And then the dispo buyer email address. So if you want to have their email address be filled out. And then you have some other fields here. Your signature field, that's a required field. Initial signer name field, if you want to have that filled out. Date, signer email. And then text field, like I mentioned, is a single line text. Text box would be for something like this. If you have further conditions, so I can just drag and drop a text box. So I can drag and drop this, and then you can fill some information out here. So you can go in and you can say this will be, this will look like this. So you can kind of see once you fill out, the font is set to 10. Let's say if I want to increase it to 12, just to make it a little bit bigger, just to kind of match depending on my the PDF font size that I have. So I can change this. You can change the font color also. If I want to have this in red, or black is the default. So like size 12 or size 10 is default, and font color black is default, but you can change, and then you can change the text alignment and do all those, like more advanced things. But for the most part, the most important thing I would say is just make sure the font size looks kind of, in alignment with everything else that you have in your purchase agreement. And then you can fill a default information out also. So this way that's already pre-populated, and it'll be for every single template. So I'll go ahead and fill this out. This will be my default information on all contracts. So this is what's going to be automatically filled out. I can go ahead and change it. And then I can also do this, that you can make it as a dependent field or something else. Again, this is a bit more advanced, e-sign feature, and you can make it mandatory that somebody has to fill it out. So if it goes to the buyer, in this case, I have to fill it out. Or this could be view only, or you can make it where it hide field name from recipient. So you can do a couple of cool things. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do party number 1. All right. And then you can do date field, checkbox field, radio button drop down, and attachment. So what we use in our business is we use the checkbox. So I can do this. So again, we fill it out once. And then, we don't have to keep doing this again and again. Essentially, this would be, who is paying for the owner's title insurance policy, whether it's, seller, buyer, or it's shared equally. And then you can also make it, because these are checkboxes, you can add it a group name. So this is my owner's policy, and then allow checking only one checkbox. So then you can, once you make, these checkboxes part of a group, then you can say, I only want one of these checkboxes to be filled out, and I can make it mandatory also. So I can say this. So this would be part of my owner's policy, and this would also be part of my owner's policy. So once I do this, you notice this is automatically checked. So now this is mandatory. So I have to select one of these options, and I can only select one. So I cannot select owner's policy, title insurance paid by seller and paid by buyer. I can only select one, which is selecting this option, allow checking only one checkbox. But if you have some situation where you can allow checking multiple checkboxes, which you can do that. And you can also make it a dependent field that if they check, for example, cash, only then they can check this. So you can do a couple of those different things. And then same thing, if I have these checkboxes, I'll drag and drop these. So I'll do this, just these ones. So for example, I'm going to make this so this would be my second group, payment method. And I'm going to do checkbox mandatory and payment method. Okay. And then this I could make, because this would only be checked if the previous section is checked. Let me see how I do that. Payment method and checked or unchecked. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with that. I know we did that on a contract, but you can just go into in-depth and then just have dependent fields also. If you select this only, then this can be selected. You know what, I'm actually going to leave it like this just to kind of see what that does. All right, and then again, same thing you can do for the contingency. Again, this is our actual purchase agreement that we use in our business. And then I can go down and I'm going to drop the buyer signature. So again, this is in party number 1. So I'm going to drop the buyer signature field right here. And I'm going to drop the date, signer date. And then then I'm going to go ahead and do party number 2. signature field. And for the seller name, I'm just going to drop this. So it's going to autofill once I select it from my, once I select it to a property. So then I just want to make sure I go through the contract and see if there's anything else that I want the seller in this case to sign. Typically what we do is, we just have them like initial on every single page. So I'll just drop the initial field on every single page just to make sure that, every page is initialed. Again, do buyer name, and I'm gonna do this. Again, we typically buy all our properties in different land trusts, but if you were buying all your properties in a same entity, so let's say this is REsimpli LLC, I can fill it out one time. So when this contract gets to me, this is going to be auto filled out as a default value. I can override it if for some reason I'm buying this entity in a different name. But the more you set up your template, the more you can input information that's going to auto populate, the easier it's going to be. Then it's just like a couple of clicks and you can send out your purchase agreement from there. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. So once I save it, so this is my wholesale purchase agreement. Now I'm going to go into a property. So I'm going to go into this 4840 Ivy Street, East Chicago. So I have a couple of sellers, but I'm just going to use the Donald Duck as an example. So what I'll do next is I'll go right here. Actually, sorry, I'm going to show you one other thing I forgot, which we do in our business, and I highly recommend, is you can add another role, and then you can make it CC and view only. So this would be title company. So what this does is once you have signed, once the buyer and seller, both parties have executed, it automatically sends the agreement to the title company. So you don't have to download, you don't have to forward the email, it will automatically do that. So I highly recommend you do that, especially if you're working with the same title company. And because it's CC role view only, then they just get the copy of the agreement once it's executed. So I'm going to go right here and I'm going to click. And I'm going to click send for e-sign. And I'm going to select my wholesale purchase agreement. So it's going to drop buyer seller. So in buyer, I'm going to just click fill my information. So it's going to copy over my information automatically, first name, last name, email. And for the seller, I'm going to select fill primary seller information. So it's going to fill out the information. And for title company, because the title company is not one of the preset default, let's say if I have a person at, title company Tony Stark, and I can say title at REsimpli.com. For example, you put their email address. And for example, if you make an accidental selection, this was not, primary seller, then you can go ahead and just do something else easily and update that. So again, you don't have to type in if they have a weird email address. So just make sure once you have the email address saved correctly in the lead contact information, it's going to fill all of that out. So I'm going to go ahead and submit. All right, so you see the buyer name, I should have filled this out, I forgot. But you see the seller name is already filled out, property address is already filled out, purchase price, this is an update we're going to make. It is the actual purchase price that I have, but it did not pick up the dollars. So that's an update we are going to be making. But you can go ahead and change it. So you note I pulled my purchase price. So I can say, let's say if I'm buying it as a cash profit, yeah, so sorry, I cannot check this. So once I get it, I can check it at that point. Again, this looks good. This is where the DD is the Donald Duck would need to initial. This is initial, and then you can see this will be my default information on all contracts. So if this will be every time you use this contract, regardless of which property, this information is going to be auto-populated. So if you have contract, where you are using the same information, please make sure you update that in your contract, in your template, so you don't have to fill it out. Once you do that, it's going to apply to every single time you use that template. But if I make any changes to this document now that I'm inside the property, it's only going to affect this specific property. For example, if I decide, I would also like my, if you notice, I put my name, but because I have already created my profile as test name 2, that's why it's picking up test name 2 as my name. So that's not a bug. It's once you create a profile, it just remembers your name every time, even if you change it later on. So I can say, let's say, I also would like to have the buyer initial. So once I'm inside a property in that purchase agreement, any changes I make to that specific agreement, it's not going to apply to it's not going to apply to the template that I have. So it's only going to be specific to this agreement only. For example, I forgot to fill this out in the template. But I of course also want this information to be filled out, and this. So for us, this is always pre-populated. We always buy our properties with Meridian Title Company. So we pre-fill this. So by the time I get the agreement, this is already filled out. The only thing that changes is the date. Actually, I would make this the date field. So this way, it's a date selection. But yeah, like a lot of this information, I forgot in my template, but I would have this added to my template and then put the title company. Then most of the time you're working with the same title company. So you would fill out the name of the title company. And let's say if you were not working with the title company, you can just click right here and overwrite that information. It would only affect this purchase agreement and not the template at that point. So let's say this looks good. Next thing I want to do is I am going to click on send. So what it's going to do is, if you want to, this is the email template, what it looks like. So you can change the subject. Let's say if you're sending it 4840 Ivy Street purchase agreement, ready for your signature. So I can do this. If I want to change something here, I can also change, but I'm going to go ahead and send it out as is. So once I send it, it's going to go to my email address. And then once I sign it, let me see if I received it. Yep, I got it. So let me go ahead and sign it. Yeah, you guys can see the purchase agreement open, right? Okay. Yeah, so you see the date is already filled out. The date signed, I'm opening it today. So this is already filled out. The buyer name I can fill out, let's say REsimpli LLC. But again, if you are buying the entity in the same name, I would have it pre-populated so you don't have to fill it out for every agreement. And then seller name, I can override it, but since this was already copied, I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to say this is my cash offer. So you see, once I check this opened because this was a dependent field, when I was setting up my template. And then I can say, the closing will take place on, because this was the date field, it will only let me input a date information. Then I can make all of these required or optional that I want. Let's say this is going to close on May 31st. I'm going to put Meridian Title Company. And I'm going to come right here and owner's title policy, let's say paid by the seller. If I check this one gets unchecked. So I can only check one of these because the owner title policy can be paid either by buyer, seller, it can be shared equally. That's how we have set it up in our purchase agreement, but you guys can, of course, customize it. And then you would have a check boxes in each of these. I can click right here, initial. Yeah, I think that was it. And if I want to change this, I can change this. I can say this agreement is contingent on contractor walkthrough. Okay. And then I can click right here. And my name is already, I think I dropped it wrong field, but this would be a date field. Then I can fill out. And then if I want to change the buyer's name, I can say this Sharad Mehta. And I can just go ahead and finish. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go to the next person for executing the contract. And it should, this is my test account, so it may not work in this. Yeah, so this is my test account, so it doesn't work so well in this, but in your live account, what would happen is the e-sign, this number would go up by 1. So you would have actually the document right here added. And then you can say what is the status of that document. Let me quickly see if I can open another dummy one. Sorry, this is my test account, so it doesn't, we delete a lot of data from this and we play around. Let me check into my other account. All right, so this is what it will look like. Once you've sent something, you can click on that. So it's going to open that purchase agreement again. I apologize for, in my test account, but this is what it looked like, once you've sent it out, that who created the envelope, who you sent it to. And then if you want to resend it, you can just click resend. It's going to resend the agreement. If somebody says, hey, I didn't get it. And then you can see, when you sent it, who opened it, what time did they open it? And then you can have all the information right here. And you can click on history. You can just click on resend or resend the agreement. If somebody said, hey, I cannot find the document again, can you please resend it to me so I can sign it? You can just click on resend and send it to anybody involved in that purchase agreement. So, so that's what it's going to look like. So I'm sorry, it doesn't, it's not in this test account, but that's what your purchase agreement would look like. And once the parties have signed.
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
I just ran across that yesterday. How do you resend it?
Sure. Yeah. So once you go into, no, that's okay, man. Yeah. No worries. Yeah, I mean, I do this every day, so sometimes I just kind of go through it. So yeah, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. So there's a couple of things you can do, right? Either you can, if you know that you sent a purchase agreement for, let's say, this property, for example, if you have something, you can go into that specific property and into eSign. Or if you want to go see all the documents you've sent through eSign, you can go right here in the general, go to eSign, and then these are all my templates and these are all my documents. So I can see every single document that I've sent, which property I sent it for, when did I send it, and what's the status of that. So this one I can see was only sent. So I can either click right here, it's going to open the document, or I can click right here, it's actually going to take me to that specific property. So if I see, this is assigned to buyer, and like this is what it would look like, that the document you sent out, modified, when did you send it? And we recently added this button of download. So previously, sometimes, some of you guys would run into an issue if you're trying to download something. It would ask you to log into eSign or Foxit, but we have fixed that. Now we have added the download button within our system. So if you click right here, it's going to download the document into your browser. And then, if you want to have a copy of that, it's just like any other PDF document that you have. But if you want to see who you have sent it to, so you click on that purchase agreement, and you would go into the history. So you can see when this was created, who it was sent to, and if they opened it or not. So it'll have all that information. So if I go into a different one that's been completed, so if I go into this, yeah, so if you see this was created, this was sent, sent to when this was viewed, and when this was signed. So you have all that information. So it gets the ID, so it becomes like actual legally binding purchase agreement. And then if you scroll all the way at the end, so this is the certificate that when this was opened, who was sent to, when they opened it, and all the information related to that specific document. But if you wanted to resend it to someone, so you can only resend a document that hasn't been completed. So once it's completed, then there's nobody to resend it to. But any property status that has sent or partially signed, so you will only see 3 status of the contract. It will either be sent, partially signed, or completed. So sent would be when you've sent it and nobody has signed it. Partially completed would be when you send it to someone and only one person has signed that purchase agreement. And completed would be when everybody, buyer, seller, anybody else that you has signed the purchase agreement. And then if I wanted to, this one is sent. So if I wanted to resend it to someone, I'll click on that document. And you see in the history on that document, I can click on resend invite. It's going to pop up this. And then you can, change the subject to, if hey, Sharad, please sign this by clicking on the link below. Okay, and then you can send it, and it's going to go to that person again, and the history will get updated right here when you resend it to that person again. Right? Any questions on this? Is there a way to add entry from multiple sellers or buyers on the contract with it? Yes. So Brian has a question. Yeah, let me go back. Sorry, Brady, you said need to change the buyer date field. Sorry, which field were you talking about?
Oh, I said that earlier. I noticed you dropped the name field and the date.
Oh,
no
yeah,
worries.
Yeah. No, I was just going too fast. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, of course, I'm just doing it for demo purposes, but yeah, I think I dropped the wrong field over here instead of like date or something. I dropped the wrong one. So I think you're right.
Yeah, but for signature purposes, what I've done, Sharad, is if you do the date signed, it'll autofill, right?
It does. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to do that, the date signed would be whenever they open it, whenever they're signing it. So let's say if they opened it today, they'll autofill the date. So you want to use this whenever they're signing it. But if it's a closing date, then you want to use this field right here, the date field, this one, because then you can choose whichever date. Oh, actually, I'll go here. So then you can use whichever date you want the closing to happen. If you use this date sign, whenever they open it, whenever they're signing it, that's the date it's gonna autofill in the agreement. So yeah, thank you for that. Hey, Sharad, is there a way to add entries from multiple sellers or buyers on the contract? Brian, yes, you can absolutely do that. So you can go ahead, and what I personally do is you're gonna have some contracts where, there's gonna be, whether you're on the buy side or sell side, there's gonna be some contract, depending on which side you're on, there might be multiple sellers. and there are going to be some contracts where there might be multiple buyers, right? If you're wholesaling the agreement to somebody else. So what I would do is, once I've saved this contract, I would go into right here. If everything else looks good, I would click on copy, and then I would say wholesale agreement to sellers. So this way, I would like save multiple templates if everything looks the same. Then let's say if I know this one is for 2 sellers for me, then I would go right here. Yeah, so this would be my buyer. This would be my seller 1. And this would be my seller 2. And this would be my CC field for title company. Okay. And then once I've done that, so let's say if this is my seller number 2, I'll come right here and I am going to do seller 2, and date signed would go right here. And then for the seller name, I'm going to select it from here, seller lead name. So this will be auto-populated directly from the contract. So you can do it for as many people as you want. I recommend, typically like 90% of your contracts would be either 1 or 2 buyers or sellers. So I would save them as 2 separate templates. So for us, we have, when we're buying a property, we have, max properties agreement with 2 sellers, and then so we have max properties agreement with 1 seller and with 2 sellers, the exact same template. When we are selling a property, we have the exact same document, but we're signing it as a seller. So we would have, sell side agreement, 1 buyer, sell side agreement, 2 buyers if you have husband and wife buying the property. But yeah, you can add as many fields, you can use it as many times as you want. So in some cases, if you have 5, 6, 7 siblings involved, you can definitely have multiple siblings. So there's no limit to how many recipients you can add. You can keep adding as many as you want. But we've limited it to the auto fill to be 2 seller fields, just because that covers like 90-95% of your contracts. So we don't want to just keep make this too long, just not to have this too much information here.
Okay,
and,
so hi Sharad, this is Brian. So just
Brian.
so I'm clear on what you did, you clicked on where it says recipient parties, and you add the fields for how many sellers or buyers you have. And then once you click that, over on the left side at the top is where it changes for you to select which individual seller
you can do
buyer.
it from either here or here. So let's say if I'm going to add another seller, right? So let's say this is my seller 3. Okay. So now you see, anytime you see the color automatically change to pink. So now this means like any fields that I'm dropping is for the seller number 3 to sign. Okay. But let's say I did this. Now I realized, I forgot there should be an initial field for buyer. Either I can click right here and you see this changes, or I can click from here and this would change and this would get highlighted.
Okay, got it.
So I can do it from either side. So if I do here, this also changes. So let's say if I want the initial field to be dropped right here, and I also want initial for this person, I can select it. And let's say if I also want initial for this person, I can select it. Okay.
Right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then when you're sending it, one other thing you have to keep in mind is, if you're sending it to 5 people, there have to be 5 unique email addresses. So you cannot have it be, one, if, sometimes we've noticed like husband and wife share an email address. We don't understand why. But you have to make sure, because this is a legally binding document, it has to be a unique mailing address. So if you're sending it to, let's say, husband@gmail.com, you cannot use husband@gmail.com for seller 1 and seller 2. Just a quick, workaround you have for that is, so whatever email address you have for any Gmail address, whether it's, Sharad@gmail.com or Sharad@REsimpli.com, but it's on Gmail, you can do Sharad@gmail.com, and then you can do Sharad +1@gmail.com, Sharad +2. So all the emails will go into the main inbox of Sharad@gmail.com, but our system will recognize at separate email. And then, for e-sign purposes, it reads it as 2 separate email addresses. But, we always recommend just make sure you have a unique email address. So where it looks like it's a legally binding document, if it were to come to a situation where, the seller is wanting to back out, like you can literally use this, hey, you signed it, here's all this signature certificate of everything. and it shows that you signed the agreement, so there's no way that they can back out. So you want to make sure that you're using that information correctly. Okay. And then I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Yadiel, is that how you say it? I'm sorry, man, if I totally butchered your name. But he had a question, will you guys be removing the REsimpli logo? Yadi, all right. Yeah, so Yadi, we will be. So we will be doing an update where you can, so right now when the email goes out, it only goes out from contacts@resimpli.com, and it goes out with our logo. We are going to be making an update this year where you can essentially, for an additional fee, similar to DocuSign or any other application, where you can have your own branding be done in the system also. All right. And Brady had a question. Thanks, Brady. I should have covered it in the last one, but sorry, I forgot that. So I'm going to go back. So Brady had a question about enforce e-sign. What does that mean? Here, I will go back. So if I go back right here in this agreement, and I'm going to click on send for e-sign. So let's say I'm going to select this agreement. Buyer would be me, seller would be right here, title company would be, let's say I'm just going to use this for title company for now. Yeah, so if you notice this, the enforce selling sequence. So if you enable this as yes, so you will, what this does is, if you, by default it's no, but if you do this as yes, then what's going to happen is it's going to go to Sharad at REsimpli first. Once I have signed it, only then it will go to the next person. So thank you, Brady, for bringing that up. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, so I would highly recommend that you do that, just because, especially if you are getting the agreement, like in our business, what we do is when we're sending it to a seller, we get the agreement first. I sign it. I just quickly look at it, make sure everything looks good before we send it to another, before we send it to the seller. I don't want our acquisition person to get confused and then, they put in the wrong information and something get mixed up. So we do enforce signing sequence. It's going to go to this person first. Once I sign it, only then it will go over to the next person to sign. And once they sign it, only then it will go over to the next one. So you don't have to use it by default. It's no, but I recommend that you use it as yes, especially if you are the one who's signing the agreement first, to make sure that you clean it up. If there's anything you notice that, hey, this doesn't look right, wait a minute, is that what we talked about? You can kind of, fix it and then pull the contract out before it already goes out. For example, instead of this amount, if accidentally somebody put in 3 million, for example, then, the seller is going to be like, hey, you already sent me an offer of 3 million. Wait a minute, what's going on? So again, have that so you can review it. If you get it, if you miss something on this step, then you can have another step to catch it. Brady, does that answer your question? Cool, awesome. And then again, enable this in-person signing. We have this option, but please do not use it. It's meant for, again, we use a third-party service for this. It's meant for other purposes. So do not use it. I know some people have tried using it, but you still have to have an email address associated with it for it to be a legal binding document. The only option, I would recommend is use enforce signing sequence. Okay.
Sharad,
Any other?
Sharad, I've got a question.
Go ahead.
I always use that feature with the enforce the signing sequence because I'm filling in like the earnest money amount and stuff on the contract that gets sent to me. Is that the correct way, or is that the correct time, or the best time to put in some of the unique things about that offer, or should I do that?
You can do it at either step, so once I'm in this specific property, any changes that I make to this will only be affected on this specific contract. It's not going to change the template. So what I typically do is, so in my case, I have my office manager, she's sending these contracts to me to sign. So she will go ahead and fill all of this out before sending it to me. So when I get it, all I have to do is click sign today, and that's it, and everything is auto-filled. You can do it either way, but you can do it here. So when you get it, you can kind of see what the information filled out looks like. So I would do it here, and then send it. But again, some of the information where, for example, if you know every time you're buying a property, it's the same entity, I would fill that in the template. So then once you fill it in the template, you never have to fill it out again in any of the contract, unless you have something specific for this agreement that you want to change. Okay, cool. Any questions on this, guys? Let me see this one other question. Tina, hi Sharad, can you send me a copy of the forms you suggest, please? Thanks. Tina, if you do me a favor, if you send an email to support@REsimpli.com, and it's for anybody, I can send you these purchase agreement. These are the ones that I use. This is the one that I use in my business. The other one that I have for assignment, I literally just downloaded it from I did a Google search. But I'm buying a property from another wholesaler, and he sent me an assignment contract. But those are pretty standard forms, like just one page, how much you're assigning it for. But I can send you this one and the other one that I downloaded, just so that you can see kind of what that looks like. Okay. Yeah. So if you send us an email at support@REsimpli, we can definitely get that over. Cool. All right. So now the next thing would be, I'm just going to do another one. So let's say if I have another, so this was my buy side agreement. Let's say if I am wholesaling the agreement, I can do a wholesale assignment agreement. All right. So, in this case, I'm going to just fill out text field. This would be my, let's say if I am assigning this agreement to somebody else, the assignment fee, the assigner would be me. So I can say, text field. If I'm the same entity, I can say, REsimpli LLC. And assignee would be, so this is where you would drop the dispo buyer name. So it's going to pull that information from the lead detail that you have, whoever is the buyer for that property. And contract date would, of course, be whatever date you sign the contract. So I'm going to do this between, again, I'm not sure. Again, I downloaded this from the internet. So, please excuse me if something doesn't look right. And the property address would be this right here. I can do this. And closing would be, I can drop this field, closer, and then the assigner would be me. So I can put my information. Assignee would be right here. And then this would be my date signed right here. And actually this would be, let me add another party. So this would be assigner. And this would be assignee. Okay. So now this, so if you accidentally drop something that was supposed to be signed by somebody else, you could just click on that and then just do party number 2. So it'll change to that. And I am going to drop the date signed also. Okay. So I only want the person I'm assigning the contract to just to fill out their, actually, this would be their signature. So I'm going to do their signature field. All right. I just want them to only fill out, sign the document, and that's it. Everything else I will fill out before they get the agreement. Right. So I'll just make sure it looks good. If there's anything that looks wrong, I can always come back, make change to the template, and then resend it, or I can make it to that specific contract also. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as my assignment contract right here. I go back into that property. Let's say if I get this under contract, so I got it under contract for 250,000 or 25,000, and then scheduled closing date is May 31st. I go right here, and I am going to go into the dispo tab, and so I already have a buyer filled out for this Spider-Man. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into send for e-sign. I'm going to select my wholesale assignment agreement. And right here, I'm going to do, I am the assigner, so I'm going to fill my information. I am the one assigning the contract. Assignee would be fill dispo buyer. So this is going to pick information for idea Spider-Man and their email address. I click submit. And again, in this contact also, I forgot to add it in the template, but you would add, I highly recommend adding your title company as a CC field only. So once you sign it, then the title company automatically gets it. So you don't even have to forward the email. So if you notice right here, it auto-filled a lot of the information, purchase agreement, the property address, my name is on, the person I'm assigning the agreement to is already filled out. And it filled out the person, again, I'm assigning that contract to. I could have also dropped their email address field here also in the template. So now, again, what I will do is I'll do enforce signing. If there's something else that I need to fill out, let's say this, I'm assigning it for 25,000. So I can do this, and the sum of assignment fee, contract date would be date. Date has to be filled out when you send it out, and closing, again, this would be filled out the date field, signature, and I can fill out my name right here, Sharad Mehta, and I can click send. So it's going to send the agreement out, and just like I showed it for on the buy side agreement, it's going to look exactly the same. Once it goes out to that, once it comes to me, I can open it, and then I can fill it out. So I got it. So it goes out pretty quickly, like within a second or two. So this is what my assignment contract looks like. So 25,000. Again, in this case, I did not adjust the font, but I would have done that. I would have changed the font size, made it a little bit bigger, but you don't have to. But that's something you could do if you wanted to make sure kind of the font size matches across the entire agreement. So contract date would be, let's say today, and the closing will take place, let's say 31st. I sign it, and this is already filled out. So once I sign it, once I finish it, it's going to forward that email, the contract, over to Spider-Man. And once he signs it, then it becomes both of us will get a copy that the contract has been executed. And if I had somebody in the CC field, it will also forward the email, the contract to them with an attachment saying, hey, there's a new purchase agreement. So then you don't have to send it to the title company, and then you can download it and have it. I mean, it will automatically save within the eSign folder in the property, and then you can just download it and use it for any of the purposes that you have. So yeah, so that's the both buy side and the sell side agreement that you have, when you are buying the property or when you're selling it. In my business, we also I buy every property in a separate land trust. So if I'm buying, let's say 4840 Ivy Street, so for me, I would buy my buyer entity would be 4840 Ivy Street Land Trust. So every time we're buying it in a separate entity. So for me, in addition to the buy side and sell side agreement, the title company requires a land trust agreement, and there's another document that I'm blanking out on. So we have also uploaded those documents within REsimpli. So because I live in Canada, I'm buying and selling properties in Indiana. So I've actually made my property manager who lives in Indiana as the trustee of my land trust. So when I'm buying, on the buy side, because I'm just wiring the money and I'm taking title to the property, the title company doesn't require, as much, documentation as they do on the sell side. So on the buy side, I just sign the title. I just sign the purchase agreement. I wire the money and I send them the trust agreement. And then when I'm selling it, I make my property manager as the trustee of my land trust. My title company already has the wiring information. So when we sell it, they get the land trust agreement with the property manager as the trustee. My property manager goes, signs the agreement, assigns the closing document, and my title company wires the money to me. So that's how we are doing it in my business. If anybody wants a copy of the land trust agreement, I can send it over to you. Again, I'm not an attorney, so please, you can use it, have your attorney review it. But I've been using it in Indiana for a very, very long time, for a few years now, and we've never had any issue with the trust agreement that we use. Again, so it's very, you can check it with your state just to make sure, your local attorney, to make sure it's something you can use. But if you want it, please send an email to support@resimpli.com. I can send assignment agreement, the purchase and sale agreement that I have, and also the trust agreement that we use in our business. So let me just make sure, Tommy, is it safer to use the date field for every date in the form? Let me go back, e-sign. So Tommy had a question. Is it safer to use the date field, this one right here? You can do that. I mean, if you use this date field, date sign, then it's going to autofill the information. I mean, autofill the date when the person is signing. I would not use this over here. So this says buyer and seller agree that closing shall take place on. So let's say if your closing is going to take place on on May 31st, if you use this right here, it will, and I open it now, it will only show May 17th. It will not give you an option to change it. The reason being, if you are signing, this is the field for date sign. So you cannot backdate it, or you cannot put a future date. It has to be the date that you're actually signing the agreement. So you don't have to use it. This will autofill, But if you use this one, dates field, then just keep in mind the seller, this is an additional field that they have to fill out, the buyer or the seller that you're sending it to. I would use this more for, the your closing date, your assignment date, when did the contract, the contract dated, so those sort of dates. But the date signed, I would really use this date because, it's going to autofill. You don't want somebody to, let's say if you're using this date, so if I remove this, and let's say if I'm using this date for the sign, or actually let me go here. So let's say if I'm using this date field. So what's going to happen is I can sign it, the seller can sign it, and then they can put a date of, a future date. Then it's gonna, you might have an issue with the title company saying, hey, why do you have a date of 2023? So I would always do this date sign. So then whenever they're signing it, it's gonna pick up the exact same date of that. So, you wanna prevent as many issues as you can. So this, I would use the date field I would use for, again, the closing date, if you have any, inspection date or whatnot, but everything else for the signature date, I would personally use the date sign field. Okay. Let me know, Tommy, if you have any follow-up on that. Matt, did you have any questions? I just saw my name pop up and I don't see any question after that. Cool. Anybody else has any other questions on, is there a strike through feature? Let me see. I am not sure if we have a strike through feature. We have text field, text box, date field, checkbox, which we use, radio buttons, which we use, drop down field. I personally don't use it, attachment field. So somebody can attach, secured field, image, hyperlink, accept or decline button. I'm not sure, Carl, can you give me a scenario where you would need to use the strike through feature? I'm just curious. We've never had this request for this.
Yeah, some of the contracts that we use, you have to strike through. It says strike one's not applicable. And so just kind of a line that would go across some of the verbiage within contracts. We could probably use a text field and just use like a dashes to.
Yes, yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah. So yeah, you could do that. So if you wanted to, like, let's say, strike through this part, then you can just do this and then just like do something like this.
Yeah.
But you would do it in that document. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Yeah, anybody else has any other question? And Mitchell, I sent you an email about sorry, I just want to follow up. I sent you an email about the earnest money deposit. Let me know if you had any follow-up questions on that, on how to record it. I just made a quick Loom video and sent it over. So let me know if you have any questions, follow-up questions on that.
I'm about to work on it today, so I just haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah, no worries, man. If you have any questions, let me know, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, Sharad, once you stop recording, would you mind just doing a really quick showing on how to set up our KPIs real quick? Because again, Alex and I are both sitting here. We don't really know how to show the values of our revenue and our loss and all that kind of stuff. So when you stop recording, is that possible?
I mean, I can record it in this. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay. I know that you wanted to have this be focused on the web form. So, or sorry.
Yeah. No, we can. Yeah, we can edit that. I mean, usually, we do. First part is the specific topic, and then then we open it up for any Q&A. So I would set up for my KPI, and this is going to be applicable to anybody else. So yeah, if anybody else has any other questions related to eSign or not, this is an open Q&A. So what I would do is you would go into your KPI sections, go into deals tracker, and then you can update this, depending on whatever this is your annual goal. Okay. We are going to be updating this later this year, where you can fill out specific goals by month, by quarter, and you can run your reports based on each month, quarter, and then previous year. But for now, you can fill it out for the whole year. And then based on that, this only counts it as a deal once you've actually closed on that transaction. So if you get, let's say, 100 properties under contract, but you actually don't close any, this is going to be 0. So it's only going to count the transaction that you close in this specific year. So it's by default, it's set to this year, but you can always, change the filter. Let's say if I want to see my last quarter report, I can just click last quarter, and then it'll just run a report just for that quarter for me. And then you can also update your revenue goal. So you can put your full revenue goal right here, and same thing on the net income goal. So this is very important, for you just to keep in mind is what is your net income as percentage of your gross revenue. A lot of people focus on this top line number that I want to make a revenue of $1 million, 1.52 million, whatever that might be. But they don't pay as much attention on the net income number. Net income number is like how much money you're actually making at the end of the year. So you can set a goal for that also, and just kind of keep a track of like how you're actually doing on the net income goal. Like there's no point of having this number be 1.5 million, but at the end of the year you're only making $100,000, for example. You want to set that goal and then keep track of it just to see kind of how you're performing. And you can filter this by different markets. If you are in different markets, you can run this report by different markets. You can run it by different roles, and you can also run it by a specific individual if you wanted to do that. And then we just rolled out this right here, a leaderboard. So again, this is in beta version right now, but you can see for every single person that you have in your team, how much revenue that person is bringing in. I mean, this shows the same amount for both of them, because every single lead that I both have myself and Tony Stark assigned to that lead. So, that lead is getting allocated or, credited to both people. And then average revenue, how many deals I've done this year, how many contracts I've signed this year, how many offers, appointments, and all of these numbers are clickable. So I can see the 10 deals that I've done, what stage they're in, and how many contracts did I get. So I can see the list of contracts and what stage they're in right now. So I can see this one is still sitting in under contract, and these, have been sold already. And I can see the ones that are in offers made, the offers that I made this year, and then the appointments that I go on this year. And then this calls and SMS is unique for each person. So how many calls I made, again, this is default to this year, how many calls I made this year, how many SMS, what's my average call duration, and what's my total call duration. And then if you're sharing it with your team and you would rather not share the revenue or average revenue number, you can just click this and it will hide that information and then only show the information that you really would like to show. And then you can apply some filter also if you want to do for example, for a specific time period, then you can go right here, time period between, let's say, if you just want to see last month, you can just click this and it'll just filter for that specific time period in your business. You can see kind of what happened in your business last month. So it'll show you right here. Again, there's a small bug right here because of the time difference. It goes back a day, but it's showing you the data for the last month. Okay, but this is where you would set your the goals right here by clicking on these three dots right here.
Okay, two things that I would love to be able to see, and I don't know if you have a way to do it right now, is do we have a way to visually see what potential revenue is currently sitting in our pipeline? So for example, if I have 10 contracts and each of those are going to be a $10,000 assignment, I'd love to be able to see a potential revenue of $100,000.
No, not right now, but that's definitely 100% on our roadmap. So it's going to be coming out next quarter in Q3, where you will be able to see exactly what you mentioned. And you'll also be able to see by your average what your goal is. So for example, if my goal is to do, my average revenue should be 25,000 per contract or 10,000 per contract, and you can see what's your goal for the year and how are you doing actual, and then the deals that you have in the pipeline, what's the average revenue from these, and also the total revenue from these. So that's definitely coming in Q3 update. Okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. And then we'll also be adding, so right now it shows you just the actual data, but we will be adding an update later on this year where you can also have specific goals for each team member in your company. So you can say, like for example, my acquisition person, I would like, Tony Stark to do 15 deals this year. And then you can actually see how many he is doing. You can keep track of it. Similar to how you have at the company level, you will be able to do at the individual level also. How many deals they should be doing, how much revenue they should be bringing into the business, how many calls they should be making, how many SMS they should be sending out, what should be their average call duration, total call duration. So you'll be able to have goals for each of these person and also have an actual, that they have the actual result that they have. Okay. Yeah, we have some really cool KPI dashboards that are going to be coming out this year. So this quarter and next couple of quarters, we have some pretty massive updates that we're working on in about 3 weeks or so, 3 or 4 weeks. Like by mid-June, we are going to be adding a pretty massive update with list stacking, but it's going to be fully integrated between list stacking and our leads. So you have some very, very in-depth data about your list and also your leads, and you'll be able to pull very, very targeted marketing list in your business. If you send SMS to someone and you just want to cold call people that have tag number or whatnot, then you'll be able to have very specific filters and export options within REsimpli. I don't know if, yeah, go ahead.
I forget again, when you're doing a fix and flip, how do you tag the expenses to the property?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do is, so you can go into inventory. So let's say if I have this property 5336 South State Street. So I would go into my banking. And let's say if I go into this account right here, and let's say this was the money that I spent on that property, I would select, let's say I bought something from Amazon and I paid online. So first of all, if you have not, I highly recommend you link up your bank account. Again, none of your data is stored with REsimpli. It all goes through Plaid. So Plaid is the same company that TransferWise uses, Venmo, and some of the very large companies use Plaid on the backend also. So it's the very, very intuitive interface. And then all of that data goes through them, and Plaid is owned by Visa. So your data is secure. You have to go through a bunch of different steps in order to, before they will approve you for this. But they link with like 90-95% of the bank accounts within US, Canada. So you can, let's say if you have an account with Chase, you put in your information. So what Chase is going to do, Chase is going to send you a link to your cell phone to confirm that, hey, are you actually trying to link your bank account? If you say yes, only then it'll let you link. So let's say you've linked up your bank account.
Yeah, and so you just click on the property inventory, step 1, right?
Yes. So, I mean, you don't have to go into property inventory, but I was just showing you as an example. So let's say if I come right here and you know which property you paid this for. So let's say Amazon, and I paid this with a charge, and then this is money out because I linked directly my bank account. It's showing this is money out from my account. So this I would do 56.
Okay.
Yeah, I forgot the address right here. It was 50, yeah, 53. So once you move a property into inventory or sold, it will automatically show up in property address. So you don't have to add that property address. Most of the accounts should already be added, but again, this is, I used to be an accountant. So I'm, again, you should talk to your accountant, but typically what you would do is when you are rehabbing a property, you will create an account, an asset account for that property. So what I would do is, so if you see this is my capital account for that property. So if you buy a property for 100,000, you would put the purchase price in that property for 100,000. Any money that you spend, let's you spend $50,000. So your base in that property, your value in that property investment will go up to 150. So when you sell it for 200, you're essentially saying, okay, I sold it for 200, again, assuming no other cost, that 150 was the write-off for the investment that you had, and then the 50,000 is the actual profit. Again, you can talk to your accountant about that, but let's say if I do 5336 South Street, I'm going to exit out, save it. If I go back into this and I go into my financials, you'll notice that all the information that I added is automatically linked up with that specific property in the financial. So it'll show me how much money I spent so far in this property.
So what if you don't have, let's say you just paid a couple of checks out to contractors? How do I create that P&L that's going to give me my net income?
So what you can do is, so you go into right here, go into properties, and whichever, like let's say in this case, I have 5336. So I can click right here. This is essentially my P&L right now. This is my cash flow. I've spent $6,197 on this property. And let's say if I sold this property, here, let me go into, I'm going to add a manual bank account transaction. So let's say if I sold this property today, I had money coming in for $10,000. Let's say this was wire 1, 2, 3. And I'm not gonna do it, how my accountant would want me to do it, but I'm just showing you just for, accounting purposes. I mean, just like for demo purposes, what it would look like. So I go back here. So you see this change to green now for $3,800. So it shows that I have a positive cash flow of $3,800, 20 cents and $20.90 from this property. So this would essentially be your P&L for this property.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
But if you want to do if you want to see an actual P&L, you go into this section, banking, go into reports, and click on income statement. We are going to be adding balance sheet in a couple of weeks. That's what we're working on right now. So you can see right here everything that you have sold, and depending on when you sell it, because again, I didn't make a proper accounting entry. The property 5336 does not show up here, but once I book it correctly, it's going to show up, and it's going to group all your revenue based on what kind of revenue it was. So whether it was, depending on what your exit is on a property, whether it's fix and flip, other income might be you have lent money to someone, rental income or wholesale fee, it's going to categorize all of that. It's going to group all of your income depending on what kind of income it was. So you can see, you can run a report. Again, it defaults to this year, but you can apply a time filter right here. And you can do, let's say, last quarter, any other filter that you want to apply. You can see what percentage of your total income came from fix and flip, and what percentage of your total revenue came from wholesale fees. So it shows me 51.27% of my total revenue that I had in my business came from wholesale fee, right? And then I can see, I had 250,000 wholesale fee on this property. I can click right here. It'll take me to that specific property and to that specific transaction. And I can also look at my expense. If you don't want to see these percentages, you can just click right here. It won't show the percentage, but it gives you a lot of in-depth information about that. So this tells you that, total revenue that I had was 536. Of that, 7.5% of my total revenue I spent on my admin fee. 11.55% of my total revenue I spent on my legal and professional fee. 9.76% of my total revenue I spent on marketing. So it goes very, very in depth, and it gives you a lot of cool data about your business. So you see kind of, what revenue type you're making in your business and where you are spending your money. And this tells me of my total expenses of 173,000, 23% of my total expenses are going towards my general business expense, and 35% of all the money that I'm spending is towards legal and professional fee. Yeah, Rob, any follow-up questions on that?
No, I just gotta mess around with tagging them properly.
Yeah, so the way we made this is we made it as like specific to real estate wholesalers, investors as we can. So when you link up your bank account, so think of it as it's kind of like updating your Excel sheet. So once you link up your bank account, the date, amount, this transaction type is automatically going to pull in. And then even after that, like depending on based on the transaction memo that you have, we will move it from unrecognized to recognized. So let's say if this transaction, you paid to ABC Marketing for this property and this account tag, all you can do is you can select right here and click confirm. So you don't have to go into every single transaction and update. So you can bulk update your transactions also if they kind of all relate to the same property. So I can go in, I can say, all right, all these 10 properties are my Home Depot. So if you look at this was the last one that I updated, Amazon, and for this property. And I can say, all right, all of these match. I can just select all 10, click confirm, and they're going to move out of my they're going to start showing up on my my income statement and balance sheet. So if I go right here in my properties, I should have a few more transactions show up for this property. Yeah, so if you notice this, like based on like some of the transactions that I made, this got automatically updated. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Brady, yeah, you have another question? Sorry, I missed that.
Yes, real quick. I've had some difficulty with my iPhone ringing or vibrating for an incoming call or text. Do you have any tips for me? I've got all notifications turned on.
Okay.
But like during this, I got a text from a a seller and it's a notification that comes down and shows on my iPhone screen, but the phone didn't vibrate, my watch didn't vibrate,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, let me see. So I think of a notification. Yeah, so if you look at this, how can I turn on notification on my mobile app? If I should turn on using, I think we made an update on this. Oh yeah, sorry, you have to go into your iPhone setting. One thing I would do is just make sure you're using the latest version of the app. So just if you go to the App Store, search for REsimpli. If there's an option for update, I would definitely update the app. And then you have to manage it from your settings, from your phone setting. We are working on where we can manage it for you from our end. But for now, those would be under your notification preference for the email. And for the app, I'll have Danielle reach out to you. Let me see if I have somebody from my support team on the call. I do not, Red, yes. Red, can you please make sure somebody reaches out to Brady? Okay. And yeah, so Brady, I'll have somebody reach out to you. I know there's a way we tested with Android and iPhone, but just make sure that you have the latest app on your latest version of the app on your phone. We've made a couple of updates recently.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then one other thing, guys, we're making updates on help.resimpli.com. So anytime we get a question from anyone, what we do is we make a video, we send it to that person, and we also add it to this specific also. So this is the one question that Mitchell had. What we did was, we made a video, we sent it to him, of course, and then we also put it on help.resimpli.com. So anytime anybody has a question, they can just simply go here, search for the keyword, and it's going to pull up everything related to that. So if I do leads, it's going to pull up everything that I have related to leads in my system. So I highly recommend checking this out. And then all these calls that we're doing get recorded under Mastermind Call. We also put it on our YouTube channel, but we also put it here, a link here, and which is basically a link from our YouTube channel. Hi, Sharad. I put in a few test property and stored in my Is it part? Yeah, Tina, we can definitely delete it for you. If you send it to us, email support@REsimpli, and let us know which properties you would like to be deleted, we can definitely get those deleted.
Okay, Sharad, okay. I have one more question.
Sure.
From the app on my iPhone, is there a way to see the buyers or just the leads?
Just the leads for now. We are going to be adding the buyers in Q3. Just a quick kind of update on the roadmap. We are making some updates to the user management side of it to, especially if you right now, when anytime a lead is assigned, it automatically gets assigned based on the round robin. So with the next update, you will be able to have leads assigned based on first to claim and also manual assignment. So that it's also going to affect the app. So we're working on that. And we're also adding, this has been requested by a lot of people, is to have the option for the driving for dollar to add multiple people. So that is going to be coming out end of Q2, or it's going to come, sorry, not end of Q2, it's going to come out in July. And after that, by end of Q3, you'll also have the whole buyers feature within REsimpli app on iPhone and Android.
You're pretty awesome, Sharad.
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yadi, you had a question. When is under recognized is out already counting? When is it under recognized? Can you, I just want to make sure that, so when it is under recognized, if you're asking if it's already including it in your property report, if that's the question, no. You have to move it, you have to basically map that transaction. So I can do this and I can click on confirm. Once it moves, so anything that's an unrecognized or recognized, it's not going to show up in my property report, my P&L, or my balance sheet or any other report. So it has to be mapped. So what we're doing by moving it from unrecognized to recognized, it's just saying, hey, we recognize that based on the previous transactions that you've done, we think that, this transaction belongs to this vendor. So if I go into a different one, yeah, so, we're just saying based on your previous transaction history, we believe that this transaction belongs to this vendor for this property and this account. Is that correct? Then you can just say, select this. If this is also correct, this is also correct. So you see this is 3, this is 4. Once I click confirm, this went to 0, this went to 7. So once the transactions are here, only then they actually show up in your financial statement. Anything in unrecognized or recognized does not show up in your P&L, income statement, or any other report that you have. Brian had a question. When sending out docs for e-sign, are we able to receive notification on mobile device at each stage of the signing process after every person signs? Brian, unfortunately not right now. So the update that I was talking about previously about each step, like you will be able to have your own branding. With that, that's going to be additional fee. But once you have that, then you'll be able to set up your own notification for that. Right now, any change we make, it affects everybody. So we didn't make that change. But once we go live with the custom branding, then you will be able to have you'll be able to have your own custom notification set up. Okay. Cool. Awesome, guys. I think that was all the question. Tim, had you put an amount or you put a number in here? So I'm not sure if that was your question, Tim. But if you want to unmute yourself and ask, I'm more than happy to answer that question. But no, this was a great call, guys. This recording will be updated in the next couple of days or so. If anybody else has any other questions, I'm more than happy to stick around for a couple of more minutes. If not, thank you so much for joining the call. And thank you for making it super interactive. I hope you guys are getting value from these. Next week, we are going to have somebody who's been using REsimpli for a while come on the call and kind of just talk about how they've been using it. So talk about their system and process. So I'm excited about that. But if you guys have any other questions, you can always email us at support@resimpli.com, or you can always go to live chat or call us or text us, and we're more than happy to help you in any way we can. Cool. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the call and making it very interactive. And I'll see you guys next week. Thank you, guys. Bye.